Well, my friends, we were quiet, we were confident, but we stayed humble and quiet, and now what's happened? Well, seemingly, the Switch 2 has come out the gates ferociously and breaking records all over the place, eating the lunch of the competition. But I hear you ask, where are these Switch 2 haters now? Like, where are they gone? Where are they running off to? Where are they walking off to? Doesn't matter where they are, because wherever they may be, they've got egg on their faces. Not just eggs, but a big fat Spanish omelette made out of 16 eggs. A tortilla, if you will. But why is that the case? Well, it's because for weeks, for months, they were talking about how the Switch 2 was going to fail, how it didn't have any gimmicks. Randomly, they wanted gimmicks this time. It was underpowered. Of course it was underpowered. It couldn't play Cyberpunk on it. It was a weak PS4. It had no hype. There was no one waiting outside the stores to snag one up, apparently, that Nintendo was manufacturing this hype. But now, what has happened, my good friends? Well, we have got a clearer picture from around the world, and it's including markets such as the UK, France, and Spain, which is showing us just how big the launch of the Switch 2 is being. So before we get into it though, quickly just hit that like and subscribe, helps the channel out, my friends, and then pull up a chair with me as we look at all this beautiful detail that we're about to go into. Firstly, I'm going to start off with what was said a few days ago by Nintendo Prime on his X account, when he said he had heard from 3 different sources that the Switch 2 has sold in 24 hours 3 million units. I believe the total for a month beforehand was the PS4, PS5, which was 4.5 million, but we're going to look at that in the post by Nintendo Prime. After that, we're going to look at the information that's just come out from France, Spain, and the UK. But what did Nintendo Prime say about the launch of the Switch 2 in its first 24 hours? Let's have a look. He said 24-hour launch sales. I have now heard from 3 independent people that Nintendo have globally shifted over 3 million Switch 2 units. This doesn't include any additional sales made today already and over the upcoming weekend, which has now passed, of course. For perspective, no console has come close to that level of sales in 24 hours. Over a 24-hour launch, the previous record was held by the PS4, which sold just over 1 million units worldwide. Crushed it. The two-month total record is around 4.5 million units held by the PS5 and the PS4. Nintendo is on pace to beat that in less than a week, says Nintendo Prime. Sales of this magnitude have literally never been seen in console history, my friends. Now, how impressive is that? Now, like I said, he's heard from 3 different sources. One of them was Paul Gale, very reliable source indeed, and a very nice guy. You should make sure you follow him on YouTube. But today we got further news coming out of Spain, France, and the UK. And now we're going to start over and see what they say about the Switch 2 sales. Let's go over and look at the sales in France. So over on My Nintendo News, they had posted a story claiming that the Switch 2 had sold over 200,000 units, but that's not quite true. In fact, if we go over on X, we can see from Pierre485, who deals in sales data, and he is claiming that the Switch 2 has sold 169,000 units in France. That makes it, he says, the fastest selling console in the country, surpassing the previous record by 58%. He then goes on to say that Mario Kart World sold over 100,000 units in the bundle, making it the biggest launch of the year. So right there again, you can see another record being broken. But how about over in Spain? Let's have a look. Now, this is also awesome. This again comes via My Nintendo News, and they are claiming that the Switch 2 sold 108k units, which means it is the biggest hardware launch in the country. And we can see actually the top 10 of bigger launches in Spain's history, and we can see at the top the Nintendo Switch 2 on 108,000 systems sold, double of the PSP, which sold 54,000, and the PS5, which sold 48,000 in its launch in Spain. Nintendo Switch sold 45,000 systems for its part. Then we got the PS4 on 38,000, PS3 on 35,000, the Vita on 22,000, the 3DS at 19,000, and then we got the Wii, Xbox 360, and Xbox Series on on 15,000 and the Wii U on a lonely 9,000. But again, our eyes straight away must go to the top because yes, the Switch 2 breaking records in Spain also, again with 108,000 systems sold, more than doubling that of the PS5. So amazing news in France, now in Spain, and how about the UK? Let's quickly have a look over there. Let's go on with what My Nintendo News says about the launch of the Switch 2 over in the UK. And they say that the Nintendo Switch 2 has had the 4th biggest game launch of all time behind the PS5, PS4, and Xbox Series XS in the largest gaming market in Europe, the United Kingdom. They continue by saying the newly launched console had the best ever first week for a Nintendo console in the UK history, which is a nice achievement. Nintendo has yet to reveal worldwide sales figures for the Switch 2. Here are the best-selling game console launches in the UK, excluding handheld units. And again, we can see number 1, PS5, 2, PS4, 3, Xbox Series XS, and then the Switch 2, which is ahead of the PS3, Xbox One, and the Wii, and the original Switch. And even in the UK, where Nintendo traditionally lags a little bit behind the Xbox and PlayStation brands, it's still doing great, right? It's still breaking its own records and becoming the highest, fastest selling Nintendo console in the UK. But you put that together with all the information that we're getting around the world and it paints a very, very obvious picture, which is to say the Switch 2 is crushing the competition. Never mind what the haters are saying. They are wrong, sour grapes all around, because the Switch 2 is indeed the king of the moment. We're going to have to see exactly how much it ends up selling in the first month. But I think Nintendo Prime is right. That 4.5 million figure over 2 months for the PS4, PS5 is going to get crushed in just a few weeks by the Switch 2. But what does this mean going forward? Well, of course, it means that it's like long life health is kind of secured as long as things keep going the same way. But more importantly, is the fact that AAA publishers are going to be looking at the Switch 2 and jumping on even earlier than they were going to after the success of the original Switch. So this is very, very exciting. And you can assume to see bigger ports than Cyberpunk in the future. We know we're getting Call of Duty. We know we're probably going to get all the Assassin's Creed games. It is looking very, very exciting. I myself cannot wait for Doom Dark Ages. But I myself didn't even think the Switch 2 was going to come out the gates this quick. I know Nintendo had predicted 15 million systems sold in the first year, which, by the way, it was what the original Switch had sold in the first year. I think this is going to sell more, and then they're going to have some very good news for their investors. So there you go, my friend. That is the news for today. Nintendo crushing it. I'm going to make sure to keep you all up to date with all the bits of news that comes out around the world regarding the figures. We'll have to see what they do in Germany, in South America, in North America, in Japan. I think these figures are going to now start to trickle out over the next few days. It's very exciting times indeed. But let me know, what do you think of these numbers? Clearly the hype was right. Nintendo were not manufacturing any of this hype. It was not fake. They clearly just knew what the demand was and made enough systems for the launch, and they were able to do that successfully. But I will be back tomorrow, my friends. Let me know in the comments what you thought of today's video. Are you surprised by the numbers? Did you think Nintendo was going to sell more? Are they going to crush the record held by the PS4, PS5? 4.5 million, remember. Right, that's it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with even more Nintendo news, my friends. Until then, take it easy. Have a good night.